The fianchetto aims to build a strong defensive pawn chain and prepare the bishop for active play along the long diagonal. Preparing for a fianchetto, a common response to white's flank opening, creating a robust diagonal for the bishop. Developing the bishop to this diagonal aims to control key dark squares and prepare for castling, creating a flexible pawn structure for white. A strategic retreat, solidifying the dark squares and preparing for potential queenside expansion. Seizing central space aggressively, white aims to disrupt black's fianchettoed bishop's influence and open lines for potential piece play. Challenging the center immediately, black aims to disrupt white's pawn structure and prevent a comfortable kingside fianchetto expansion. Developing the knight here shores up the center and prepares for a potential kingside castling, though it slightly delays controlling the d4 square. Developing the knight to c6 reinforces central control and prepares for further pawn expansion on the queenside, a natural response to white's aggressive pawn push. Solidifying the pawn center, this move aims for robust development and future kingside expansion, anticipating potential pawn breaks. Solidifying the center, this prepares to challenge white's pawn wedge and gain space on the queenside. Solidifying the center's pawn structure now prepares for queenside expansion. Developing the knight to its natural outpost reinforces the center's pawn structure and prepares for kingside castling. Unleashing the f-pawn creates immediate kingside space, but potentially exposes the white monarch to future central pressure. Developing the bishop to its best diagonal, this move quietly prepares for queenside expansion and potential pressure along the c-file. Shifting the knight to d2 aims to reinforce the e4 pawn and potentially support a future c4 advance, though it delays kingside development. Unleashing flank activity, this pawn thrust aims to disrupt white's kingside harmony and potentially seize the h-file. Fortifying the kingside flank is a prudent, yet passive, decision, potentially inviting further queenside expansion from black. Shifting the queen to c8 is an unusual maneuver, potentially seeking to avoid immediate central conflict or prepare a queenside expansion. Asserting control over the d6 square and preparing for central pawn pushes disrupts black's harmonious development. Aggressively seizing queenside territory, black disrupts white's central ambitions and creates immediate counterplay along the flank. Shifting the knight to e3 prepares for kingside expansion, potentially supporting g4 and threatening kingside play. Aggressively seizing open space on the queenside, this push immediately challenges white's central control and aims to disrupt his pawn structure. Reclaiming the outpost, this knight returns to its central post, challenging the encroaching queenside pawns. Seizing the half-open file offers potential for queenside pressure, but beware of leaving your king exposed. Unleashing the bishop's diagonal potential, this repositioning prepares a central pawn push and aims to restrict black's queenside expansion. Solidifying the queenside pawn structure with the bishop opens the way for further queenside expansion or a central break. Pressuring that advanced b-pawn now creates immediate tactical headaches for black's cramped queenside. Securing the monarch offers immediate safety, preparing for central action. Reclaiming the knight's central influence after black's pawn push aims to solidify white's control over key squares. Breaching the pawn chain cracks open the queenside, creating dynamic imbalances for both sides. Opening the b-file grants attacking chances, but exposes the queenside pawn structure. Suddenly, the rook pierces white's queenside, creating a dynamic threat and disrupting established pawn chains. Suddenly, the queen seizes control of the third rank, creating diagonal threats and probing for weaknesses around black's castled king. The rook repositions to bolster the queenside and potential pawn advances, aiming to expand black's maneuvering space. Prioritizing king's safety, white begins a difficult repositioning maneuver, but exposes the king significantly. Pushing the h-pawn now creates a permanent weakness, inviting a kingside assault. Opening that kingside file invites immediate tactical exchanges, potentially weakening the monarch's safety. Opening the H-file allows the knight a daring outpost, potentially disrupting the monarch's safety. Shifting the bishop to the queenside flank opens a clear diagonal for it to pressure black's king, while also preparing potential piece exchanges on the central files. Unlocking a queenside pawn advance, black seeks active counterplay and targets white's exposed king position. Shifting the queen to c1 reconfigures the attack's point of pressure, potentially probing the kingside or supporting a d4 pawn push. The sacrifice opens up the king and creates immediate attacking possibilities on the f-file. Initiating a counterattack on the queen side, this move strategically repositions the queen to contest the now open g-file and defend against potential immediate threats. Re-establishing the knight's central influence is key after the piece sacrifice. Igniting the kingside, white boldly sacrifices a pawn to shatter black's defensive wall and expose the monarch. Sacrificing the bishop opens diagonals and creates immense pressure on the king's weakened pawn shield. Finally, opening the f-file offers a chance to pierce black's defenses. Reclaiming the queen to initiate a bold counterattack and exploit the exposed king. Unleashing a swift counterattack, white seeks to exploit the exposed black king and open lines for his attacking pieces. Sacrificing the bishop for initiative, black aims to disrupt white's queenside structure and create dynamic play. Reclaiming the central file with the rook will exert pressure and disrupt black's already awkward piece placement. Breaching the defensive wall with this knight advances, aiming to disrupt white's king safety and exploit the open files. Unleashing the knight to gnaw at the weak pawn structure, opening new avenues for attack. Targeting the weakened light squares and uncastled king, this seeks to open lines and exploit positional discord. A strategic retreat to solidify the center and prepare for further pawn advances, aiming to restrict black's active pieces. Shifting the queen to a more active diagonal hints at a desire to regroup and potentially threaten white's somewhat exposed king. Shifting the king avoids the immediate knight fork and consolidates the defense, but it does expose the king further down the H-file. Disrupting white's central control, this maneuver aims to exploit weaknesses created by the prior pawn exchange and open lines. Unleashing a pawn storm on the flank, this aggressive thrust seeks to shatter black's defensive shell, potentially opening lines for attack. Unleashing a rook sacrifice to disrupt white's king safety, a bold attempt to exploit the opened H-file. Exposing the kingside further, this knight advances to initiate a potent kingside attack. Repositioning the knight opens up new attacking avenues against white's king. Unleashing an attack on the weakened king's side, though exposing the queen momentarily. Unlocking the d-file pawn storm creates new attacking avenues and disrupts white's king safety. Securing the f-file and preparing to storm the enemy king. A desperate gambit to disrupt white's centralized pieces. Seizing the open f-file opens a potent path towards black's exposed monarch. Unleashing the queen opens up lines, but leaves your king exposed to white's advancing pawns. Shifting the king to the side of the board offers better protection against the looming d-pawn threat. Targeting white's underdeveloped queenside, this repositioning aims to disrupt their coordination and seize the open file. Unleashing the rook provides a crucial open file, yet exposes your king to a precarious diagonal.